Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I drop my kid off at school and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good morning, listeners. It is Monday, October 14th, 15th, and the weather has turned here in suburban Chicago. It is now brisk and cool. I am wearing my Aran Islands sweater that I got in Ireland, made of thick wool. It's got this broken zipper though, so I actually have to take it to the tailor and get a new zipper put on. But yeah, it's lovely. I'm going to try not to sniffle too much because it's cold enough that I may have a little bit of a runny nose. So we'll see how that goes. It was a fun weekend. I got to try 3 new games, so I thought today I would do a Shootin' from the Hip episode. I haven't done one of those in a while, talking about 2 of the 3 games and maybe the 3rd, depending on time. So let's jump right into it. The first of the games is a new one to our collection. It's called Smile by Michael Schacht, or Schacht, S-C-H-A-C-H-T, I believe. And I didn't know, I knew that I'd heard the name before, but I couldn't place it. And I went and looked it up in Boardgame Geek, and this is the designer of Zoo Loretto and Coloretto, along with a few other games, but that's the one for which he won the Spiel des Jahres. And that's the one for which he's best known. This is a new game from 2017 brought out by Z-Man that my wife picked up because the art is hilarious, and it is hilarious. The art on the front has a sort of, they're these critters, the game calls them, that are like the sort of oil-painted, wildly improbable creatures of various types. They're not actual animals. They're like weird, fuzzy things with funny faces and hilarious expressions. There's a children's artist that we used to like, David Cattrall, I believe. He did The Boy Who Looked Like Lincoln, if you're going to go look one up. And these animals remind me a lot of his work, which is, I imagine, why my wife picked up the game. So we played 2 games of it on Sunday, and one of the games we played wrong because I missed 1 line and 1 rule. It's really interesting how 1 line and 1 rule makes all the difference in playing a game. So it's a pretty simple game that it turns out is a kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, a reverse auction. So the way the game works is you have these critter cards and you're trying to collect them for the points that are on them. But you can only have 1 card of each color symbol. So some of the cards don't have a color symbol at all, and if you get those, you keep them till the end of the game. But most of the cards have 1 of 5 different or 4 different color symbols in the corner. There's orange, white, blue, and pink. And there's a symbol to go with it as well, so it's fine for colorblind players. And the idea is to get 1 of each of those, or you can't have more than 1. If you get a second one of any of those patterns, then you lose the first one you had, and you lose the second one. So you actually end up discarding both. They scare each other away, is the way the game goes. But the way the game's played is you have these little fireflies in your hand, and they are worth, at the end of the game, for every 5 you have in your hand, you get 1 point. Which doesn't sound like that many, but you end up with... you start the game with 6 of them, and at the end of the game you could end up with a lot or not very many, depending. But the way the game goes, you lay out, so say we played a 4-player game, you lay out 4 cards, and they have numbers, values. I think the worst card is a -5. The best card is a +6. Most of the cards are positive, but maybe a quarter to a third of them are negative. There's enough negative that it's a significant factor in the game. And whoever's the first player you have these 6 tokens. They call them fireflies. The theme is really light. It could be an abstract game. There doesn't need to be any theme at all. But the theme is that you're trying to attract these monsters with fireflies, but you're trying not to get the wild ones. The wild ones are worth negative points. The domesticated ones escaped from your pen. They're worth positive points. So your goal is to get yours back, or get the domesticated ones back, without accidentally collecting a bunch of wild ones. So on your turn, you can either lure by playing a firefly, or collect by taking one of the cards that has a firefly on it. Thing is, most of the time there's only going to be one card that has fireflies, because the way the rules work, if one of the cards has the lowest point value, that's the one where you have to play your firefly. So it becomes a kind of reverse auction where you either play a firefly or take a card, and the first couple cards in each round, or at least usually the first one, they're often bad. And so we had a number of rounds where we got 4, 6, sometimes I think there was one card that had 7 tokens on it before somebody picked it up. So when you pick it up, of course, you get all those fireflies back, but then you also get the card, which maybe has a negative value on it. And then you put it in front of you, and you play 10 rounds. You have to take one card each round. So it's kind of a reverse auction where you're trying not to take a card you don't want and trying to force someone else to take it. The first round we played incorrectly in that I missed the rule that said you had to put it on the lowest card. And so when we played, we just put the tokens wherever we wanted. And it's a totally different game then, much less interesting, actually. Playing it correctly, it turns out it makes it more fun. But there's a really interesting dynamic. I don't know if I've encountered it before, where the choice is, especially early in the round, you're managing your resources because there's negative points if you run out of fireflies. That's bad. And my daughter got into a spot where she kept running out of fireflies, and then none of us were giving her cards that had a lot of fireflies on them, so she kept having to take the negative point things. I think she ended up with -3, and the rest of us, none of us took any. So that can be a trap as well. But the fact that if you get a second card with the same color on it, they go away, really makes for some interesting play, because you could intentionally take a card with a big negative on it and plan later to take another card of that same color to get rid of it. And then you get a bunch of fireflies. So definitely worth a play if you get a chance. I'm not sure. I mean, I think the retail is $20 maybe, and that seems a little high for what you get in the game. The art is gorgeous. If you get a chance to look at the art, the animals are hilarious. Definitely worth playing if you get a chance. I'm not sure I would suggest buying it, although I'm not getting rid of it anytime soon out of our collection. That's Smile from Z-Man Games, Michael Schacht. The other game that I got to try this weekend, I really enjoyed, and definitely is going in my want to play more often category, and that's another small box game, Innovation by Carl Chuddik. Now, Innovation, the reason I picked it is that a friend on Board Game Arena said that he knew how to play and wanted to play it with someone, and I have it, and it's been in my unplayed list for a while now, so I was keen to get to try it. And I really like Matainai, which is another Carl Chuddik game that falls into the same realm. Like I haven't played Impulse, but I would say Glory to Rome, which I haven't played but I've read the rules, Matainai, and Innovation all belong in the same family of these Carl Chuddik games where he focuses on the idea of multi-use cards, and then as the second part of it has cards with powers that seem like they're broken. So Glory to Rome is famous for this, Matainai has this, and I would say Innovation has this as well, where there are these cards that just feel like they're super unfair if you get them in play. And the gameplay itself would not be fun because of that, except that a lot of the cards feel that way. And so if you get the right engine going, it feels unfair, except that someone else then either just takes it away or gets the same engine going. So I would say that's true of Matainai, that's true of Glory to Rome from what I hear, and that's definitely true of Innovation. So the way Innovation works, it's loosely themed around the idea of building a civilization and progressing through the ages of technological change. Broadly themed, the cards have names that suggest they are new technologies or new techniques for mastering the human interaction with the world. They're divided into 5 categories, which are rendered by color. In thinking about it, I'm not sure whether those colors are rendered in a way that makes them colorblind friendly or not. I would have to go back and look. I don't think they are, now that I think about it, which is a shame, because all they'd have to do is put a specialized border on the card and then you would be able to tell. That said, I didn't check for that, so it's possible that they are colorblind friendly. But anyway, the way the game works is that on your turn, you can either draw a card, play a card, or activate a card. Now they have dumb names for this. Instead of calling it play a card, they call it meld a card. I don't know why they don't just call it play a card. That's dumb. Instead of saying activate a card, they call it dogma a card, which is even dumber, since dogma is not a verb. But anyway, when you play the card, it's got a number of symbols on it that there's like 8 different kinds of symbols or something, and as the game goes along, the number of symbols of each kind you have in play makes a difference for what you can do. The long and short of it is, when you take an action, your opponent will sometimes be able to follow you and do the action also. Or when there's some actions that attack the other player, it's about half of them actually, and you can't do that action unless you have more of those symbols. So a lot of the game is about managing your symbols on the board. You win by accomplishing these objectives. In a 2-player game, you have to get 6 of them. And the objectives come from either scoring points or accomplishing particular arrangements of cards. The gameplay is pretty fast. My daughter and I have played a couple rounds of it now, and now that we know what we're doing, it takes about a half an hour, I think. Including a little bit more finicky setup than some other games. Like Matainai, you shuffle the cards, deal them, and go. In this one, you have a bit more arranging to do, because there's like 10 piles of cards and you have to line them up and do all sorts of malarkey with that. So what do I think of the game? I really like it. Innovation is super fun. If you like Matainai for its difficult decisions where you're trying to decide, do I use this card for this thing or do this other thing with it, Innovation does that very well. If you like the overpowered superpowers and the ability to everybody can get those, and there's different sets of them, and whoever gets theirs running fastest wins, that's good. Again, the gameplay is like a half an hour, so if you're getting really stomped, the game's over before you have too much time to be sad about it. I will say the big difference in Matainai, it feels unfair because you're watching the other person's engine run faster or more efficiently than yours. In Innovation, they kick over yours. There's a lot of sandcastle kicking in Innovation. In fact, that's the way you play. If someone else's engine gets running, you don't have time to get yours running faster. You have to break theirs. And often you get yours running by breaking theirs. So as much as I really like Innovation, Rado described it as a dark black heart, and I think that's true. Well, that's it for me. Hopefully you found these quick shooting from the hips about Smile and Innovation useful. Pop over to Boardgame Geek 3269 Guild and let me know what you think. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.